Hi, it's Brian Kelleher with Keller Williams Realty, and today we're going to talk a little bit about earnest money, what earnest money is, and the three biggest misconceptions we hear about earnest money. So stick around. Earnest money. Okay, so what is it? Earnest money is the money that a buyer puts down with their offer to buy a house, and it shows how serious or earnest they are in their intentions to follow through with buying the house. And we're going to talk about the three biggest misconceptions we hear about earnest money. But before we start that, I just want to say it's very important that whenever we're talking about earnest money, that buyers, sellers, and their agents all review the sales contract and look very carefully at what the terms are regarding earnest money, because it's all negotiable and it can change from contract to contract. So that being said, the number one biggest misconception we hear about earnest money is that the earnest money is held by the seller. In the vast majority of cases, that is not how it goes. In most cases, the earnest money is held by the listing broker, and it's held in an escrow account until both the buyer and the seller agree on who's to get that earnest money. The second biggest misconception we hear is that money automatically at some point goes to somebody, either the buyer or the seller. The only time it automatically goes to anybody is if the contract follows through to closing, and then the money is automatically applied to the buyer's balance at closing, either their down payment or their closing costs. If at any point during the contract, for some reason, the contract ends or somebody backs out due to one of the contingencies in the contract, at that point, the buyer and seller have to agree on who's going to get that earnest money, and they need to sign a document stating that they agree to who gets that earnest money. It definitely doesn't automatically go to anybody. And the third biggest misconception we hear about earnest money is that it's an old and archaic process and that it doesn't really matter in today's market. And that is definitely not the case, especially in today's hot real estate market. The more significant the amount of money is that a buyer puts down on a property, the more confidence a seller is going to have in that offer, because they're going to feel like the buyer is very serious about moving forward with the property, and that they're not just using it as a placeholder to hold the property while maybe they continue to shop for something else. It's also going to give the seller confidence that if they've moved on to another property and they've started doing inspections on another property, possibly they've started to move or they've completely moved out of their house, that they've got some protection against inconvenience and costs that they may have incurred in the process, especially if something goes wrong very late in the process. So those are the three biggest misconceptions we hear about earnest money, but we get a lot of questions about earnest money. So if you have any questions about these or any other questions about earnest money, please let me know. And if there's a specific topic you'd like to see a video on in the future, shoot me an email or a text. And in the meantime, thanks for tuning in and stay in touch.